A while ago, someone commented on my Ray Comfort is a liar video, and we basically got into a discussion about what is good and how God relates to that. In his last comment, before he completely stopped responding to any of my replies, he said this: "But that idea is flawed, especially because you do not know everything. So what is deemed a good deed to you, or a good deed God should do, is, once again, seen through your limited perception." Basically what he was saying is that I have no right to pass judgment on what is good and what is not good because I do not know everything. I'm not omnipotent, I'm not God. I also sensed the implication that no matter what God does, I should accept that as moral. Now I have a problem with that because A, it suggests that my sense of morality is subject to my will. It's not. I can't control what I think is good or bad. If God came down and said to me personally, go out and kill as many people as you possibly can, I wouldn't be able to do it. Or at least, if I did have to do it, on threat of going to hell, I wouldn't like it. I wouldn't consider it a moral action. That is my own personal sense of morality. No one can change that. I can't change that, nobody else can change that. In fact, the only way that God could even do it is if he literally came down and changed my sense of personal morality, which completely flies in the face of any semblance of any concept of free will. And B, if we say that God can do anything, and it can still be considered good, even if we personally think it's bad, then what the fuck are we supposed to judge good by? How are we as humans supposed to judge what is good or not? If we trivialise human perceptions of what good and bad is, bad things could happen to us over and over and over and over again, and this omnibenevolent God could still be doing good. We're left in a situation where if God does good things, he's doing good things, and if God does bad things, he's still doing good things. This links into what is known as the Euthyphro dilemma. I'm not going to go into it in too much detail, but it basically asks the question, are things good because God wills them to be good, or does God do good things because those things are inherently good? If things are only good because God makes them good, he could quite easily make anything like rape and murder good, which means that good as a concept on its own is purely arbitrary. And if God only does the things he does because they are good, it suggests that there is some sort of external, outside concept of good, which is independent of God. This ultimately means that you can be a good moral person without God, which from a religious fundamentalist point of view is obviously quite an uncomfortable conclusion to draw. Now the main way that people try to wriggle out of the Euthyphro dilemma is by positing that neither of those conclusions are true, and it's actually a false dichotomy. There is a third option. God does not create arbitrary morals, and there is not an outside external concept of good. The third option is that God is good by nature. This doesn't solve the dilemma, it merely reorganises it. But if God's nature is inherent in some way, then he was still not the ultimate creator of what is good and bad, which still suggests that there is an external concept of good which is independent from God. Now going back to that comment that was left on my video, what he was suggesting, either explicitly or implicitly, is that we should not speculate upon the mind of God. Basically, stop asking questions. That sentiment is rife throughout the Bible. For instance, Acts chapter 1 verse 7, "And he said unto them, It is not for you to know the times or the seasons, which the Father hath put in his own power." John chapter 21 verse 22, "Jesus saith unto him, If I will that he tarry till I come, what is that to thee? Follow thou me." Basically, what Jesus is saying there is, if I choose to keep him alive until I return, what's that got to do with you? In other words, stop asking questions. Genesis chapter 19 verse 26, "But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt." Basically, God had told Lot and his wife to walk away from Sodom and Gomorrah while it was being destroyed, and not look back, so that they could not see what was being done to it. Because Lot's wife was an inquisitive soul, she did look back, and God killed her. Now many will say that there are examples in the Bible of curiosity being rewarded. But these are always things like, oh, I'm curious to know the love of God, oh, I'm curious to know how awesome God is. Whenever people start asking difficult questions, they are either killed, or at the very least, told to stop asking questions. The Christian theologian St. Augustine also subscribed to this idea that you should not be asking questions above your station. He wrote, "Either I would like to know those things of which I am ignorant as to the origin of the soul, or else I should like to know if it is not for us to learn such things as long as we live here on this world. And yet, what if this is one of those things of which we are told, Seek not the things that are too high for thee, and search not into the things that are above thy ability, but the things that God hath commanded thee. Think of them always, and in many of his works be not curious." In other words, stop asking questions. To my eye, this constant condemnation of curiosity obstructs one of, if not the, noblest feature of humanity: the desire for knowledge. It's also another example of something that God gave us but he apparently wants us to suppress. God gave us curiosity, but he's constantly telling us to deny it. Ultimately, the two conclusions that I draw from all this is that, first of all, it is illogical for me to follow any other morality than my own. My morality is inherent to me, and without evidence that is not going to change no matter what anyone does. And secondly, the Bible and God and Christianity in general is constantly telling people to shut the fuck up and stop asking questions. You are a puny little human, and the only thing that is good for you is blind faith.